Now, to discuss the policies behind these separations, let's go to Washington. Andrew Arthur is there for us. Andrew is a resident fellow in law and policy at the Center for Immigration Studies, also in the American capital. Wael Alzayat, he's a former senior advisor to the U.S. ambassador at the United Nations, Samantha Power. Gentlemen, welcome to the Newsmakers. Andrew, the question has been asked before, but it has to be asked. Is the President of the United States a racist?
No, I don't think that the President of the United States is a racist. Donald Trump has lived most of his life in the public sphere, and he's certainly never been an individual who has exhibited any signs of racism in the past. He's, been a businessman. He's dealt with all different kinds of people, and quite frankly, at the end of the day, I think that in his business policies, the only color that Donald Trump saw was green. And as president, he hasn't advanced any policies. All that he's attempted to do is to enforce the immigration laws of the United States and the other laws of the United States.
So it's fair enough to call Mexican immigrants rapists, murderers, drug dealers, which was right at the very start of the whole Donald Trump being in charge of the United States. Is the world happy about that? It's okay to call the very latest issue being his former aide, who he's fired, Omarosa, as she's referred to, as a dog. This is a black lady. Look, we know the president doesn't particularly respect women, but would he call a white woman a dog?
I don't know. I don't know enough about Donald Trump. I've never met him. All that I do is I look at the policies that the president has implemented. With respect to his statements at the beginning of his campaign, I believe that he was talking specifically about criminals. In fact, he indicated when he clarified his statements that, he had great respect for the Mexicans who came here and were hardworking, as well as other immigrants who came to the United States and were hardworking people. So I believe that he's clarified those statements since then, and I don't believe that they reflect the man himself. But as I said, I've never met him personally.
Wael?
I agree with the previous statement in terms of, at the end of the day, you never know what's in the heart of man, but all we can do is look at the actions and the statements. And the actions lead me to believe he's a racist. He did not call the fascists who marched in Washington, D.C. or Charlottesville as dogs. He did not call them as murderers. Even one of them did kill a young lady. He, in fact, equated between the protesters and the anti-protesters when there should be no comparison between them, because one was literally marching with Nazi flags. He has basically alluded that the best way to kill Muslims is to dip the bullets in pigs' blood, which is a horrendous Islamophobic remark and sentiment. And the list goes on. He has simply not attacked non-immigrants, non-whites, non-Christians in the same manner, even when they have committed, let's say, similar or comparable atrocities or just criminal behavior. It's just his statements are not the same. And that leads me to believe that he has a racism problem.
Andrew, let's presume, shall we, because as you both say, none of us knows Donald Trump personally. We can't speak for him. We can't see into his heart, Wael, as you say. Let's presume that none of this is based on race. We're talking here specifically about Mexican families that have been separated at the border. There's still 559 children who are not reunited with their families. What do Trump supporters, Andrew, say about this policy, even if they agree with the president that illegal immigration, some people even say that the word illegal should never be applied to a human being, that migrants who come without proper documentation are being separated from their children? What do Trump supporters say about that?
Well, I would note that the vast majority of individuals who are apprehended at the border these days are not actually Mexican nationals, but rather nationals from what we call the Northern Triangle countries of Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. With respect to the president's policies on prosecuting individuals who enter the United States illegally, that's a law that's been on the books for decades, and the president is enforcing it as a tool in order to discourage individuals from entering the United States illegally. And there are two good reasons to prevent individuals from entering the United States illegally. The first is we only have about 18,600 Border Patrol agents to patrol a border that's about 1,900 miles long. Given the fact that they work in shifts and they're government employees, they only work about 40 to 50 hours a week. At any given time, we only have so many Border Patrol agents along the border. Every time that they apprehend an unaccompanied alien child or a family, agents have to be pulled off the line in order to process those individuals. That gives an opportunity for other human smugglers, human traffickers, individuals who peddle in human despair, as well as drug traffickers to run their illicit goods across the border.
Andrew,
the
listen,
other reason to discourage
quite possibly
individuals,
that's absolutely fair enough. Okay, if you want to support,
but there's one,
that particular
but there's
policy,
actually one, but there's one.
The issue is about
There's one more
children.
important
The issue
point
is
to
about
make,
children. We're talking about children, specifically about
Right.
children being separated from their families.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, because of the way that the laws have been written, and the laws that have been written by both Republican and Democratic lawmakers, separation of individuals during prosecution is the law. The president has issued an executive order that said that those individuals should not be separated during the criminal prosecutions that take place. So the president has indicated that he has identified the problem and is attempting to take care of it. The reason that there is actually a separation is because the parents go into marshal's custody at the time that they're prosecuted, but we don't prosecute children for entering the United States illegally. But because of laws that were passed largely with Democratic votes, any child who is separated from his parent becomes an unaccompanied alien child,
Okay,
and that child
Andrew,
goes into the custody
sure,
not
I
of
got it.
DHS,
I'll
not
tell
of
you what,
DOJ, but of the Office of Refugee Resettlement.
Can I just give you one more chance to say it's wrong to separate children from their families? Do you want to say that?
No, nobody wants
Not
to
gonna
see nobody wants to see parents separated from their children. I'm a father myself. The president is a father, and he's expressed his statements about it. Again, the president has taken steps in order to ensure that parents are not separated from their children, but there are laws in the United States that unfortunately have resulted in that. The president has taken steps to ameliorate the effects of those laws. The president doesn't want to see it happen, and I don't want to see it happen either.
Okay.
It doesn't sound like you do either.
Okay, while Andrew says that it's not just Republicans, it's not just this president, it's happened before. It's been going on for 10 years, he says.
That's not quite true. And in the law, it does not say that you actually have to separate children from their parents and cause long-lasting trauma, as we're seeing right now. What it does say is that if you are apprehended, that you could either be detained or released on your own recognizance and come back for your trial, which is what many administrations have done in the past, which has enabled them to stay monitored in the United States with their children. Under Republicans and Democrats, it was only with this administration and with some of the advisors we all know, like Stephen Miller, who are using this strategy to deter not just illegal, but also legal immigration to the United States. And they're basically telling all the brown people of the world, if you dare to set foot on the United States, we're going to harass you, we're going to detain you, we may imprison you, and we may even take your children. And that's literally what is going on.
The administration, while was told specifically how much distress and psychological damage these separations would do to minors, to children, they still went ahead with it. What does that say about the decisions that are being made inside the White House?
You know, let me just, let's get real, guys. I'm an immigrant. I'm a first-generation immigrant myself. From Syria. I was born and raised in Damascus, Syria, and immigrated to the United States legally. I grew up here to become a United States diplomat who served in Iraq in our embassy twice, where we're getting rocketed by militias. I've served in other dangerous areas on very difficult assignments. And I'm a proud immigrant of this country. And I believe that the United States is better, its people and its government, than how this government has been behaving. You know, I really have no idea what kind of people would actually stoop to the level that they have to separate little children from their mothers, right? To imprison people with their children as the alternative to separating them. This is insane. I'm embarrassed. I feel that the last 10 years really what I have experienced, the best of our government and the great people who represent us abroad is being undone. In fact, the United States principles since the end of slavery and the civil rights movement and the post-World War II that we helped create is being undermined intentionally by people who are both ignorant and xenophobic. And it's very dangerous for American democracy and the world.
Okay, I want to come back to the overall feeling that some people say Trump is encouraging in the United States in just a moment. But Andrew, I just want to put to you the question of legality of some of these deportations. A lady called Carmen and her daughter were being deported from the United States. U.S. District Judge Emmett G. Sullivan said, turn the plane around, or at the very worst, don't let it take off. And this is his quote, this is pretty outrageous that someone seeking justice in a U.S. court is spirited away while her attorneys are arguing for justice for her. I'm not happy about this at all. This is not acceptable. The administration is breaking the law. That last phrase, the administration is breaking the law, is me, not the judge. What do you say?
Well, let me go back to the points that were made earlier, because I think that you're both missing a very important point. We want to discourage individuals from entering the United States illegally, in part to protect those individuals. The fact is, and this isn't just me, this is the Obama administration for whom my colleague worked. This is National Public Radio. This is National Geographic, have detailed the horrors that particularly women and children face as they make the perilous journey throughout Central America, through Mexico, to the United States. Mexico is a country that grants asylum. They're a signatory to the Asylum Convention. Individuals who have a fear can apply for asylum in Mexico. The fact that they make their way to the United States just exposes them to greater danger. Rapes, robberies, murders are common among smugglers. Smugglers are bad people. There's another effect that this has on Mexico, and that is the fact that the money that gets paid to smugglers, part of it goes into the pockets of the cartels. We don't need to discuss the horrors that the cartels have inflicted on Mexico. I believe that last year, Mexico recorded its highest murder rate ever.
Yes, you're completely correct, Andrew. And that's one of the reasons, that's exactly one of the reasons
discouraging people from entering the United States.
That's why people are trying to escape Mexico. Exactly, as you say, the highest murder rate. Discouraging people from entering the United States illegally is... Okay, I tell you what, you didn't want to answer the question about the legality of some of these deportations. And then I said we would talk...
With respect to that specific deportation, I don't know the facts of it. But one thing I can tell you as a former official with the INS, individuals are sometimes deported in error. And I believe that with respect to that case, those two individuals were deported in error. I believe that, I know the case that you're talking about, I don't believe that they left the plane, and I believe that they were flown back to the United States on the next flight.
Okay.
So again, accidents happen, but I don't have any reason to believe that those individuals were deported specifically against a judge's order. I'd be surprised if they would.
Okay, sure,
if I were the immigration official in charge of it, I wouldn't countenance.
Okay, I get it. Accidents can happen. Look, we've only got 2 minutes, so restrict yourself, if you don't mind, 45 seconds each. So to address this issue of the mood under which all of this is happening, the U.S. immigration policy under Donald Trump, you guys know this better than anybody. Laura Ingraham on Ingraham, I think you probably say it, on Fox News says, the America we know and love doesn't exist anymore. Massive demographic changes have been foisted on the American people, and they are changes that none of us ever voted for and most of us don't like. This is related to both illegal and legal immigration, demographic changes that none of us ever voted for and most of us don't like. Fox News is so hugely popular, and so many of the viewers will say, absolutely right, we don't like it when non-white people come to America. Is that what she's saying, Andrew?
Diversity is the strength of America, and quite frankly, the president wants to move to a merits-based system. One of the benefits of a merits-based system is it's largely race-blind, it's largely nationality-blind. It doesn't matter whether it's the doctor from Nigeria or the engineer from Pakistan. If they've got the skills and ability to succeed in the United States and add to our economy and add to our culture, we want them in our country.
Okay. Thank you very much.
The American people are pro-immigrant.
Okay, we have to keep it brief. Well, last word to you, briefly.
Yeah, no, the America that we know is a land of opportunity and immigration, not just merit-based. all of a sudden now we only want the doctors to come from Nigeria, but not the laborer or the asylum seeker. That's not what made us. That's not what brought my family here. I didn't come from a family of doctors, but I became a U.S. diplomat. So if that's not the American dream and what's making this country great, I don't know what is.
Andrew, Wael, we really appreciate you joining us on the program. Thank you.